The Dark Tower is a movie sequel to the horror novel series The Dark Tower by Stephen King. And this time around, we're going to do things a bit different, as this is more going to be a PSA for the novel series The Dark Tower. The Dark Tower is basically about a tower that connects a bunch of Stephen King's horror novels together. Stories like It, The Shining, Pet Sematary, and many, many more. I highly recommend looking into it. So with that little PSA, let's get into the movie. No plot, just a review this time. So, my review of The Dark Tower, the movie. I thought this movie was going to connect a lot more Stephen King's horror movies, but instead they went more of the Easter egg route. There is a part where they go to this amusement park, and it's the Pennywise amusement park, and the whole movie definitely takes a big horror turn, as the vibe of the movie definitely becomes like a horror movie, but that lasts for like 10 minutes. And besides that, the movie is just riddled with a few Easter eggs from some of Stephen King's movies, which I was kind of expecting more, but it's still a fun thing to try to find them in the movie. Unfortunately, this is what makes this review unique, is that this movie wasn't really a horror movie at all, and they ended up focusing more on the fantasy action side of everything. And the only reason I really decided to do the review was the PSA, the novels, because the novels are heavily horror influenced, as they literally connect some of Stephen King's master horror pieces together. So, yeah. Also, a thing that was really cool about this movie was some of the lore. One piece of lore is when the man in black is explaining why the gunslinger is so strong. He's like, yeah, basically the gunslinger is completely immune to my sorcery, which the man in black has some powerful sorcery, so that kind of makes the gunslinger super strong. But he also explains that the gunslinger's revolvers are forged from the mystical legendary sword Excalibur, which means that the gunslinger comes from a place where Excalibur existed and was a very powerful weapon, which I thought was pretty badass. And it kind of also explained why he was able to just kill monsters with these regular revolvers, because they weren't. They were Excalibur. Crazy. And that's about it. So my rating for The Dark Tower, I would give this movie a 5.5. This movie could have honestly done a lot more. They could have definitely made it more horror vibe, because it's literally a horror novel. Also, something I probably should have put in the review was the casting for the Man in Black. Having Matthew McConaughey play that role was just a huge mistake. They 100% needed somebody with more of an evil, sinister aura. Matthew McConaughey, anytime he was on screen, I did not feel that he was the big bad guy. I just thought he wasn't the right cast, but he wasn't a bad actor. Just sometimes you need that person with that presence, and that Matthew was not it. So yeah, The Dark Tower is definitely worth a watch, but unfortunately, since it's a sequel to the novel, it kind of wants you to read all the books. So there was some things that they talk about in the movie that don't make sense. But nonetheless, a pretty entertaining film, and they did good with the gunslinger. Most of his scenes were insanely good. So yeah, give The Dark Tower a watch, and this should definitely be in your collection, because steelbook.